Hi guys, I'm Danny, and I started a Sunday gym because I've noticed lately that people tend to go to colleges and universities without actually knowing why they're there. Afterwards, starting jobs that are unfulfilling. So I'm interviewing different professionals to see what they have to say and share their knowledge and experience with you. I hope you enjoy it. Right on, Brad. Thank you for being with me. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, Danny. Very, very well. It's good to be here. Thanks very much for having us.
It's amazing having you. I checked the resume a little bit. You have a lot to share. The program will be focused on three main questions. What do you do for a living? How did you get there? And how did you knew that this was the way to go? So tell us what you do for a living, please.
I've got a couple of jobs actually. I'm a chiropractor and have been to a chiropractic for over 20 years, and
Wow.
I'm also a life coach, which has been my calling for the last 6 years, and it's something that I just really, really enjoy. I love giving back and helping people get into another level from an emotional point of view.
That's pretty amazing. And about how did you get there? So you were like walking on the street one day and you were like, let me be a chiropractor for 20 years and give some life coaches, or did something else lead you on that path?
No, I'd had a a, a colorful past. I was a police officer for and a detective for about 8 or 9 years. I then went and worked in finance and a few other bits and pieces before I got to the point where I was like, I realized I didn't enjoy any of the jobs that I was doing, and I decided to go back to uni to do something that I did love, which was to do with health and well-being. And I've been going to a chiropractor since I was very young, and it was just that whole natural healthcare, that whole natural self-healing of the body. So for me, it was just when the chiropractic school opened up in our city, it was just this is for me. I got sick and tired of doing the horrible stuff that I didn't enjoy, and then I want to do something that I did. And 20 years later, I'm still doing that.
It's pretty fascinating what you just said. It's 100% related to the third question. Third question is how did you knew this was the way to go? We can cover it, but a few words before that. I'm sure you've noticed that because it's happening all over the world. I'm talking to a lot of people. You know that people tend to go to colleges and universities because they have that stigma. You should go over there, get a diploma to secure your life. That hasn't been true for about 30, 40 years now. And again, now I have to say it almost all the time. I'm not against colleges and I'm not against universities. I myself went through all that. And I was happy to do so. But it's not for everybody, and that's not, or at least should not be considered an insult because I don't, it's not coming from a bad place. It simply isn't, and there's no shame in that. But then again, I guess it's been stigmatized for so long, and now everybody has to go over there. And you said it pretty well. It's from what I'm seeing, from what I'm observing. It's once you're over there and you graduate something, and if it's not for you, well, anyway, you gotta have to work about it. And the job fields related to most of the time relate to what you studied. If that ain't for you, you're gonna be miserable person. Now it's not fine, but I guess it's kind of okay to be miserable on your own. But once you have other people in your life, a wife, husband, children, you're gonna take that misery in the home 100%. I have never seen in my life so far a miserable person that everything's fine at home. If you're miserable there, you're miserable here. That's just how it is. So basically, that's why I'm collecting all those examples. You said it pretty well that you weren't exactly happy. However, you could have done, from what I can see, from what I've been hearing, you could have been doing a lot of other things. Yet you chose that one. And it's a pretty specific field you're in. So I highly doubt it came out of the blue or anything. So how did you know this was the way to go? Were you influenced by something or someone? Was it a gut feeling? What was it?
Oh no, I was always into my health and well-being, especially the physical aspect of it. And like I said, I'd been seeing a chiropractor since I was probably 6 or 7 years old. And so it was always reinforced that if you adjust the body and let it heal on its own, it will do that innate healing process. So for me, I love that concept. If you adjusted the body, and it helped me throughout my sporting life, through, general life as well. For me, it was one of those things where I could, uh, it just resonated with me to the point where I wanted to do that for other people as well. That was basically what it boiled down to. I'd been to a chiropractor forever, and I wanted to give back to people doing the same thing.
Yeah, it's a pretty noble cause, and not to mention, once you have that internal feeling, I don't know how to explain it. It's not for lack of better words, I know words, but I just can't explain it. But when you have this internal feeling within you, and it tells you what to do, and you're doing it, you're gonna end up being a pretty happy person.
Yeah, exactly. And that helped me a lot with my confidence in regards to, because I never thought I was, I don't believe I'm any smarter than anybody else. I didn't do very well at high school. I was more interested in sports and other extracurricular activities, I suppose. But I just wasn't, I just didn't do well. So I didn't think I had the smarts to go to university. It didn't worry me. I went and, like I said, joined the police force, and not nice little career in there, but none of it made me happy. Giving back and supporting people in that space, that definitely brought that confidence, but also that feeling of self-worth as well.
100%. Now, I have a fourth question, and I'm sure you can help a little bit here. If you have one advice, I'm sure you have 1,000 advice, but if you have one to give to the audience, my my audience is made of people who are just in that situation. Was that the right choice for me? Was that the right job for me? Am I studying the right thing? If you can give them one advice, what will it be?
Follow your heart. You just have to follow your heart, follow your gut, follow what you think is right for you. That's you can take advice from different people. Those people are close to you. And never let anyone say that you can't do something. Just if you can believe you can do it, and you have faith in yourself, then and you feel like this is right for you, just follow your heart, follow your gut. And that's what I basically did at the time, and I've done that throughout the years, and I'm still doing that now. And I've had a semi-career change in the last 6 years as well, which we might get into a little bit in a little bit of time. And that's it's about finding what resonates with you, and then follow that. And I've been lucky. I can balance 2 careers at the moment. It's not always easy, but I'm trying to make a difference in the world in another space, which is the mental and emotional space. So, and it does, like you said before, it doesn't have to be something you do through university. It can be through life experience. Some of the most interesting people I know have never been to university, but their life their life experience, their wisdom is second to none. And sometimes you learn more from those people in so many other avenues of life, that it lifts you up and gives you more insight into who you are and life in general, I suppose.
You're 100% right. And I was lucky in that department, because from my mother's side, everybody basically doctors. From my father's side, they're more like technologically orientated, engineers, mechanics, and so on and so forth. And well, I'm an accountant, and I've been in financial department like forever. My high school was like that. My bachelor study, master's degree, everything was finance and business administration. I've been doing this all my life, and I've never been happier. I honestly can't see myself ever doing anything else, because that was for me. And turns out I was a minority, because people around me are like that. But it's pretty good, because my parents never really imposed themselves on me, right? That you have to be a doctor or a mechanic or an engineer. That never happened. And in all fairness, I know it sounds grotesque and ugly, but it is what it is. We are preparing our children for a world that won't be there when they grow up. It's just how it is. My father told me that his father told him, if he ought to be a mechanic, that's fine, but he should learn how to fix TVs, because everybody has TV at home, and you're never gonna be out of the job. I'm 33 years old. I personally have never seen anybody fixing a TV. If it doesn't work, you throw it out, you buy a new one, that's it. So yeah, the world is different and it's constantly changing.
Constantly, forever. And I think if you look at yourself personally, you're changing constantly as well. We don't always
Yep.
see the changes, but we're constantly changing, and we have to adapt to the changes in the world. So, and I 100% agree. One of the ladies I used to work with, there was a cartoon called Dick Tracy. I don't know if you remember seeing it as a kid. And
Doesn't ring a
so
bell.
Dick Tracy's a cartoon character. They made a movie out of it years ago. And on this cartoon, I'm 55 now and 56 actually. So, and as of a couple of days ago, but on the cartoon, he had a watch
Oh
and he'd
yeah,
talk
I've
into the
seen
watch.
that.
Yeah. And Sally's dad would say to Sally when she was a child, Sally's a bit older than me, that won't happen in my lifetime, but it'll happen in your lifetime. She goes, "Oh, Dad, don't be silly." And everyone now is walking around with those Dick Tracy watches on their hand.
That's a pretty good comparison. And with that said, Brad, huge thanks for being with me. Appreciate your insight. Please don't forget to give me all the links. I can put them in the social in the description below, all over social media. And thanks for being with me, sir.
No worries. Thanks very much. Take care. And just to let you know, I also do the life coaching as well, which has been the other shift in my life.
Yeah.
So that's my big focus now, which is helping
Well,
people
I'm
through the
not in a
emotional.
hurry, so let's discuss a little bit about the life coaching, because in all
Let's
fairness,
do that. I appreciate that, because that's been a big change for me as well, because I was doing chiropractic for 15 years thereabouts. I'll probably no, sorry, try again. About 10 years I'd been in the chiropractic with an extra 5 years of study, and I was depressed. Not because of my job or because of my marriage, but because I'd been struggling with some trauma in my life. And I ended up doing a life coaching course, which helped me deal with my trauma, my challenges from my youth. And by doing that, by listening to self-help books, by doing online courses and programs and that sort of stuff, I was able to get out of that depression and understand who I was as a person, and understand that it was it wasn't what happened to me as a child wasn't who I was. It only was what happened to me.
yeah.
And that trauma, once I understood that and I could actually deal with it, I understood who I was as a person. And that life coaching course gave me the tools to then start supporting other people in that space. And that has changed significantly in the last 6 years, where I've written a book about my journey. Because over here in Australia, we have this term, and I'll use the F word, but it's harden the F up. Okay. So if something happens, I'll stop crying about it and just harden the F up.
Yeah.
And so as a society, we've been told to be tough and hard and resilient, and resilient is a good thing, but not dealing with your trauma, your pain, your issues, your hurt, your emotions, and bearing it and hardening the F up is a really, really bad way, because what happens is it builds up over a period of time and it just wears you down. And that's what happened to me. And I suffered with depression as a result. And it wasn't until I actually dealt with that trauma that I realized that sometimes we just have to soften the F up and look after ourselves and be caring and nurturing to ourselves, and do the work to help us overcome those emotional challenges. And that's when you get to really time. So I get to be happy doing who I am, doing my life coaching course and doing my chiropractic at the same time. So I get to juggle these, and then I've got, amazing wife as well. So I get this, I've been very blessed over the last, 10, 15 years, and the last 6 especially.
Love what you said about it, and here's my observation. I love when you said that wasn't you, was happened to you, but it wasn't you. And I recommend reading, not listening to the YouTube videos. There's this German philosopher, Eckhart Tolle.
Love him.
Amazing person. I recommend reading it because he has this tremendously thick German accent. Every time I hear it, like somebody's putting a cigarette in my ear. I don't want to insult the German people. I love them. I love the food and the culture and everything about them. but that accent is way too heavy for me. So I just recommend reading about it. But he really, I read almost every article about him that I could get my hands on. And he's pretty good. Like, let's say somebody is offending you, right? That saying you're fat or ugly or something. It's not exactly offending you. He's offending your ego. If you drop the ego, you can never really be offended, because first of all, you do to others what you do to yourself. Let's say I'm a nasty person, a vindictive man who runs around the street and tortures people and torments them. But I would never do that if I myself am not tortured, tormented from within. Like, and being that kind of a messed up person, he compared it pretty well. It's like being in your own hell and being your own inquisitor while you're in hell. Devil doesn't even have to do anything. He can just go to Spain, to Costa del Sol. Nice place, I've been there. And he can just have a day off because you're going to do his job for him. So if you are able to drop that ego, I don't see how you can be that depressed or troubled or tortured or traumatized in that department. I'm not saying, because, you know, exceptions to the rule, right? Every rule has exceptions. I'm not talking about captured soldiers or hostages or something. I'm talking about regular stuff, everyday stuff. If you're able to drop your ego, I think you'll be able to live heaven on earth.
100%. And the more you dive into that and the more you understand yourself, the more self-love you have, the more self-acceptance you have, the more self appreciation you have. And when you have that, then when those, and you in that space, when you do get those offenses thrown at you, my first response was, well, why are they attacking me? What are they in pain for? Why are they hurting?
Yep.
You know, what's their story to get them to be like that? And you know, it's very hard for people to forgive, but at the same time, forgiveness is not for them, it's for you.
Yeah, exactly. I personally, I'm an Orthodox Christian. So forgiveness was, well, when I was young, I don't know how it is now, but when I was young, it was taught in school. And you don't do it for the other side, you do it for you, because otherwise you have to carry that within you. Love what you said about the self-love, because if that's the first step. If you don't have that, you can't love other people. It starts from you, it's within you. If you don't have that self-love and self-respect, no, that you can't just go. That's like learning a Shakespearean English without knowing the English alphabet. That's not how it's going to work, and it's not how it's happening. And you have that example, although it sounds, let's say it sounds wrong. All right, I don't see it as wrong, but it sounds wrong. I have automatic respect for people. They can be terrible people, but I'll find out later on. But at first glance, if I see somebody who looks well, you know, regardless of age, because you can tell if somebody that was involved in a sporting activity all their life, even at 70, 80 years old. If I see somebody, and you can tell, I have automatic respect for this person because it takes discipline. Right? You cannot be involved in a sporting activity for a long time if you don't have the discipline. You can have a lot of excuses, but not discipline. And I immediately have that respect for those people, because looks matters. All right, it does. It just does. I know it. Some people may say, well, it's not important. Well, it is. Same thing is when I walk into somebody's home, right? And everything is clean, everything is perfect, and they give me a cup of tea, and I'm sitting at the corner over there, one leg, sipping it, trying not to spill anything, because I have respect for the work they did with that place. And the opposite, maybe the person can be like an angel, but if you look disgusting and terrible and just didn't take care of yourself, at first glance, I'm not going to have respect for you. And this is, you know, that's the point. You gotta have some self-love and self-respect to take care of yourself, and that projects to others. I've noticed it projects to basically regardless of culture, religion, region, anything. If you have that self-respect and you took care of yourself, people can see. Human eyes trained for a long time to spot that. You can't hide it with AI and everything, but nah. So people automatically respect that. So this is why I believe it was perfect when you said that self-love and self-respecting.
Thanks. Yeah, yeah. I found it difficult at one point because for me, I found there was parts of me that knew I was a good bloke, for example, but in my heart, I didn't feel like I was a good bloke. And so it wasn't till I healed that I actually started to feel that I was a good bloke as well. And even though sometimes I portrayed that I was a good fellow, and I was a good bloke, but I didn't feel it because of the weight that I was carrying around with me.
Good
And
fella has
so,
a different meaning, so
yeah. And so sometimes you can that respect that you see is sometimes not always that you have that respect for people when you see them. Sometimes it's not actually felt internally by that person
yeah.
because they have that weight that they're carrying around. So it's a bit of a conundrum sometimes, or a paradox where you might see it but they don't feel it. So it also
It
depends on the
does
individual.
happens. I have an
Mm.
additional question, and you've been doing life coaching for a couple of years now, several years. What is the most common issue that you're facing with the people you're working with?
That's a great question. I think it's fear. Um, I think at the end of the day, it's fear, especially for men, because we've been conditioned to be tough and be hard and be strong and be stoic and to harden the F up. And and it's the fear of having to face our emotions, the fear of having to face our past, our trauma, our pain. And by not facing it, we're not allowing ourselves to heal and grow and be the men and people we want to be. And that goes for women as well. But I've really found working with men is in that space, the fear is the thing that holds people back the most. It's the emotional fear. Because I was involved in a siege and was inside for a room for 5 hours as a police officer.
Wow.
And every time I opened a door, yeah, and every time I opened the door in that particular 5 hours, there was a chance that the gunman was behind that door and something terrible could happen. And someone had already been shot and killed. And that fear wasn't as great as me having to face my past from 44 years earlier.
Well,
That
in
fear
all
facing
fairness, that fear cannot even be compared to the fear you have inside. And I know because every single man on this side of heaven, since the beginning of time until the end of humanity, every single man will have that same fear. And I know what you're talking about. So one thing is that external fear, the man behind the door that may have a gun walking, so, right? But you're already mentally prepared for that. And I'm not saying that, a perfect marksman or anything, 100% chance to survive, right? But you're mentally prepared for it, you're expecting it, and at least but to face yourself now, that's a whole other story. Back then, because I'm telling you, I know what you're talking about, as I had to do the same thing in 2018. Now, before 2018, I was able to face 100 men with guns behind the corner of a door. I didn't, but I wasn't ready to face myself, and I know that fear. And the worst thing about that fear, first of all, it's stronger than any other fear. And number two, you can't escape it.
dropped out.
You can lie to people, you can hide from people, but you can never lie to yourself and you can never hide from yourself. It's just how we're designed by God, I believe.
100%. And when those men do actually face their own fear, face themselves, look in the mirror, and deal with that whatever it is they have to deal with, the freedom on the other side, that emotional freedom, is one of the greatest things that they'll ever feel. It's one of the greatest things I've ever felt. It's liberating, absolutely liberating. And I was on an emotional high for months afterwards, and I'm still riding that high, and that energy ever since. You know, I've written 2 books, or just about to complete my 2nd book,
Don't forget to give me the
and run
links.
workshops, online programs. Sorry?
Don't forget to give me the links.
I'll give you the links, no worries at all. Yeah, so all those sort of things are just so powerful once you step up and you face that fear. And it's just, even though it's scary, believe me, it is worth every bit of energy,
Yeah.
tear, fear, anger, and you'll live an amazing life afterwards. You just have to do the work.
No, it's a very rewarding battle. I can
Absolutely.
guarantee you, because I've seen people, and again, the podcast, this episode, the episodes I'm doing, the point of this is not to insult people or offend people, because I'm not that kind of guy. I don't want to insult people. I'm just highlighting what I'm seeing. My guests are always this, like you, for example, are always wiser than I. So when I'm wrong, I'm asking them to correct me, because I may be wrong, but I've seen it with my eyes. People who've accomplished a lot. I'm talking about CEOs, management positions, wealthy people, and they still have this internal fear, and it's disgusting. Right? That's the word I can use, because it's simply disgusting to see a man like that. And when you said, well, toughen up and F up, right? But yeah, well, sometimes you have to just face that fear, and because you can just never escape that. At least I believe you can never escape that.
Well, I think that because, you say it's disgusting, I think it's just that they've been so conditioned to it that they're so hard on themselves, which is why they have to soften up on themselves, and realize it's okay to just take a step back. It's okay to heal. You don't have to be the winning CEO all the time. You don't have to be winning every battle that you go into in the boardroom, or on the whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. In sales or marketing or whatever it is. Sometimes you're going to lose some battles, but if you lose the battle against yourself, then
Yeah,
you're never going to have that joy and happiness that you talked about earlier on that comes from within. And when you can do that, that's when the real, and everything else will be easy. All the battles in the boardroom, all the battles in sales and marketing, that'll be easy compared to what you did looking in the mirror and doing what you had to do.
absolutely. I remember I was talking with a CEO of a company a while ago, like a long time ago, maybe 6, 7 years ago. Yeah, he told me that he had that gladiator mentality. I'm like, what do you think that means? Because the moment he said, I know he didn't know what he's talking about. So what's a gladiator? Just give me a. Well, a guy on a Colosseum who fights and he dies. I said, nah. No, first of all, those were slaves. All right. They were purchased. Nobody in their right mind will purchase a slave who will die the next day. That's not how economics work. They were basically like boxers. Rarely, they died on rare occasions, and they died when they were like huge trouble. So, or if they wanted to die, that's how it was back then. That they went to the person that owned them and said, "I had a good run. I'm getting old. I don't see any future. Let's do it." And they were fine with it. But 99% of the time, there wasn't a fatal injury or anything. They were just for the show. You know Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like that. You can get a trauma. Of course, they were a little bit more savage back then, because everything was more savage back then. But I just told her, you're not a gladiator. You're a douchebag who happens to be in a certain position. That's it. You cannot torture yourself like that, because you end up with a heart attack or in the grave. And then what? Because in 20 years, only your children will remember that you worked overtime. I'm a living witness to that. So there's no need to torture yourself like that.
No, definitely not. And the amount of stress in the world around at the moment, the pressure that is put on us by organizations and ourselves, the cancers, the heart attacks, the
Yeah,
ill health. There's so much going on. So we have to take a step back and breathe and enjoy life without having to fight all the time.
absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And with that said, Brett, Thanks for all the clarification. Please don't forget to put everything in there. Thank you for being with me, and see you soon, sir.
Thanks very much, Danny. Thanks for having me.
Likewise. Bye. Guys, I hope this one was useful. Please follow the channel on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Gap, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Ring the bell and all the good stuff. Have a nice week ahead, and I'll see you next Sunday.